myself down a little bit. But thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
I manifested this, absolutely, because I came to your solo comm show at the Pit. I had a friend, Julia Schroeder, went like after you or soon after you, and I was there for her show, and I came early and saw yours. I was blown away. There was a few things. The storytelling itself was so fantastic. The theme of it, it was just funny and unexpected, and it was inspiring. I really loved three white guys named John.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. That affects me so much.
Does it?
Yes, because I did not work on it with anyone, and so I really felt like, what is this? Like, is this okay? Is this a thing? And the Pit was so cool about it's okay, like, be experimental or whatever. They didn't. Yeah. They asked for a pitch, and then they were like, go
just
for it. We don't care. And I mean, not we don't care, but
that was the first time you did it?
That was the first time I did it, and so I didn't know if I was doing it right or whatever.
Oh,
and
wow.
So it really affects me a lot to hear you say that, because it inspires me to keep going. Yeah. Because it's a personal show to do. Yeah. And I've now done the
You've
hour.
Done more. Yeah.
And so it's not, I love the show, but it's hard for me. So hearing that you say that it inspired you, that helps me, connects me to purpose.
Yes.
Okay, just keep doing it. Nobody cares about your problems. Let's go.
Well, everybody, we have Andrea Coleman on the show today. I'm so excited to have you on. And, this is Life in Bold, and we talk about authenticity. We talk about going after what your dreams are. We talk about choosing challenge. And when I saw your show, the whole time I was like, she's going to be on the podcast. She's going to be on the podcast. And afterward, I went up and introduced myself, got your Instagram. And then I was like, I'm just waiting for the exact right time. And then I was like, boom. And you were like, yes, I'll come on. And it was so fantastic. So I've been really excited.
Oh, I feel so excited too. And
Good.
Your energy when I met you that night, I was like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing.
Yeah.
And I feel like I asked you, I'm like, aren't you a performer? I don't know, but I feel like you're a performer. And you're like, yes, I am. I'm like, okay,
well, I'm glad that I said yes, I am, because I didn't always answer that question that way. Okay. Even though, yes, I've always been a performer, but I never had certain education. I didn't join certain groups like choirs, things like that. But I always did my own thing with performing. In high school, if there was a talent show, I would do something. Or in college, I wrote songs and I had YouTube videos. And I actually did a musical called Bipolar the Musical. I have bipolar, and I was diagnosed when I was 12. And I just wanted to get it out, and I wrote Bipolar the Musical. And then in my 20s, I did, different things. Like my work would have a talent show and I would write a song or something. But it wasn't until I was 30, 2 years ago, that I actually stepped into it. And I was like, okay, performing is my thing. This is what I'm going to do. And it's been really an awesome 2 years. And at the beginning, I would never have said, yeah, I'm a performer. Or if someone said, do you have a performance background? I would be like, no, I'm just, just do this. But now I'm like, no, I'm a performer.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're doing it more even on the international level, because you're putting things out there
on the
for
internet.
The world to see, as opposed to doing a school production.
Right.
It's like,
I know.
I mean, why is the internet less valid than a school production? More people are going to see it on the internet.
I know. And it's really a mix of both, which I know you do reels sometimes. You do a lot of live performing, and you do stand-up. You do storytelling. Do you do music or sing or anything musical?
I do not, but I am willing to do that. Somebody came to one of the shows I did this summer of 3 white guys named John, and afterwards they were like, oh, I feel like you should sing at the end. And I was like, okay. I mean, this is I'm willing to sing, because I know that I can't sing, so I'm okay with I'm aware that this is not going to be good in the sense of a singing thing. It's just going to be more about the story.
Did you watch SNL this week?
No.
Okay, so Jean Smart, that's her name, right? Jean Smart from Hacks.
Yeah.
She did a little song for her monologue, and I thought it was really nice. It really inspired me, because it was It was a little song, and she said, "I happen to like New York," and then tell a story about New York and the trash and stuff. And but it was a piano and stuff, and I thought it was really nice. Like, I don't think you need to be able to be like some kind of grand singer to do musical performance. And for myself, I do musical comedy. That's my main thing, is like singing songs and like going on stage and writing funny songs and stuff. And I'm not any kind of classically trained, like, beautiful Broadway singer, but I think that actually adds to the comedy.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just some gay guy who just wants to, like, sing my heart out, from the rooftops and stuff like that. And it ends up being really fun to, like, sometimes make a mistake, or, like, to have your throat, kind of mess up and just go, oh, whatever. Like, but I think it adds to the message of, like, a lot of my songs are like want songs, like I want this, I want that, this is my big dream, this is what I want to do. So I think it adds to it. So I think you should do it.
All right. I love that. I feel inspired doing that. I mean, when I first moved to New York, I would audition for stuff where they would ask you to sing. Yeah. And I knew it wasn't good. I even one time walked out of an audition. Yeah. And there was a mean girl in the room, and she she was openly laughing at me because of the way I was singing. And I was like, well, I mean, I know I'm not a great singer. Like, that's okay with me, though. Yeah. Like, that they asked me to sing, so I sang.
Right. Yeah. Right. You're just doing your thing.
I'm doing my thing, but I'm willing to. I feel like it helps if it's an area where I'm like, I know, I'm aware. Yeah. Of what I can and can't do.
Self-awareness absolutely makes the comedy, or
so.
The act or the performance. So when did you move to New York?
Oh, my word. Okay.
Like, how long have you lived here?
I feel like it was about 19 or 20 years ago in December.
Wow. You don't know if it was 19 or 20? I feel like 20 is a big.
20 is a big. I mean, I could probably look at my phone. Okay. Yeah. If it's okay for me to pause for a moment to mentally think.
Think about it.
All right. I moved here. It's 20. I moved here in
1964.
I moved here in 2004.
Okay, got it.
So it's 20 years. It'll be 20 years in December.
Wow. And how does that do you feel like any milestone or any like celebration, like, wow, 20 years, or is just where you moved and like that's your life?
Okay, well, now that we're talking about it, and thank you for giving me the moment to do the math. Yeah. Wow. It feels significant. It feels significant that I quit my job this year.
You quit your job this year in January, right?
It only took me 20 years to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't there for 20 years, like 17. But yeah. But yeah, now that I feel like, wow, this feels very.
Did you move here to do performance?
Definitely. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's why I moved here.
Yeah.
It was going to be here or LA.
Okay, and what made you make the decision to move to New York?
I'd always wanted to live in New York.
You're in New York.
Yeah, I always wanted. I was born and raised in Virginia. Yeah. But, like, always was like, I want to starry-eyed about New York. Mm-hmm. And I was going to go to college here. I got into my dream school. Yeah. But it was too expensive. I was going to go to NYU. Yeah. And, but they were like, no, boo-boo. I mean, they were like, yes.
Yeah, sure, but it's going to be this much.
Right. And my family was like, no, we don't know.
You're not an NYU girl.
Right. And I was like, no. Yeah. So, but I had always wanted to live here. Yeah. But I'm glad I didn't actually go to college here. Okay. Because I don't think I was ready. Yeah. But also, I did have kind of like the best time of my life in college.
Yes, of course. So, where did you go to college? In
William
Virginia?
And Mary.
Yeah.
William and Mary in Virginia.
Okay. I did that too. I grew up in California, and then I grew up outside of San Francisco. I went to college in San Francisco, and then I moved here right after college, and now it's been almost 10 years. Oh, Guess what date of the year my anniversary is on? Okay. It's like, I'm not going to give you any clues.
Okay. Is it like December 17th?
No, January 6th.
Oh!
So now, like, every January 6th, I'm like, hello, everybody. It's been 7 years. It's been 8 years. So it's almost been 10 years. So it's going to be my 10-year anniversary. I got to do a big photo shoot, you know?
Okay, if you're gonna do a big photo shoot, I gotta do a big photo shoot. I'm gonna do something.
I'm really into photo shoots.
Well, so what does that look like for you?
Well, I have a few options. So I have a Stonewall show coming up at Stonewall on October 22nd. I'm doing a spooky evening with Ben Hawes.
Okay.
And I just did a small photo shoot where I got a disposable camera, went to Spirit Halloween with my friend Denise, and we just took all these photos, like trying on costumes and stuff. That's my most recent. And then I would say like 1, 2, 3 times a year, I have this photographer, Weston, and he has good rates and stuff, and I'll just like have him like come here or go to the park or whatever for like an hour and take photos. And I just love having photos to post on the internet, on posters. Like, I love updated photos.
This is a fantastic idea. I have never heard of this.
Photos? Or like
photos for
just
your
for
life.
Yes, like, right.
That's,
well,
I mean, yeah.
The first time I got really inspired, because I've always done it. I've done, my big, like, I worked at a photo studio in high school, and I loved the idea of like my senior. I was always like, this is what I'm gonna do for my senior photos. Like, this is what I'm gonna do. Like, always ideating around my senior photos, and I ended up doing them at the photography studio that I worked at. So we had like a lot of fun doing it, and then like in college I did like graduation photos, and then when I moved here. I had a friend that at work, and she was like the videographer at the company, and she was like, hey, like this weekend, do you, like for my birthday, I think she was like, do you want to go take some photos? And I was like, absolutely, like absolutely. And so we went and just took photos, and like we were out for like 3 hours around like the West Village and Soho and stuff. And I was just like, maybe every year I'll do a birthday photo shoot. And then one time I was redoing my website, and I told our chief marketing officer, who I was looking at your website because I'm redoing mine and I want to make mine like yours. And she goes, oh my God, are you doing a photo shoot? And I just was like, I should do a photo shoot, like personal branding photo shoot. And then as I've gotten older, I've just realized like I don't need a reason to do a photo shoot. Like it's just a fun activity, like people go axe throwing.
Yeah.
People take singing lessons. I like to do a photo shoot.
Oh my God. I love this. You're blowing my mind
really?
Right now.
Yeah.
It makes me feel very excited.
I think you should do a photo shoot.
This.
You just take an hour, get some outfits, go on the Brooklyn Bridge or whatever.
Yeah, because I live in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I live very close to the Brooklyn Bridge.
I know, you should go.
I run to Brooklyn Bridge Park every day.
That's all you have to do. And because I'm really into social media, like I'm just like totally a creator, like all about it. That's why I do the podcast. I like recording music. Like I like all of that. And like the photos are so fun to post like to Instagram and just like get a reaction and like have them for my website. You have a great headshot with that red tank top.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I need to be better about posting. I'm working on it. Like I posted something. This was my private. It's not gonna be private anymore, but this was my private goal, is to post. This doesn't even seem like a lot, but to me it's a lot.
No, but
to post one thing a week for the month of October, like
that's
on
a new
my
goal.
Instagram. Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about it.
Okay.
So what kind of things do you typically want to post?
I don't typically want to post
you don't like
anything.
Posting.
I don't dislike posting. It doesn't occur to me naturally.
You don't connect with it.
Correct. And then I do go on Instagram often because I like seeing what people are doing.
Yeah.
I love this is so lame. I love little kids.
Yeah.
I love cats.
Right.
I really like when adults talk to children like they're adults.
Yes.
And like I'm a sucker for anything like that.
Yeah.
And then so I have ideas, and I have in my notes app, like, here are possibilities for, like, reels and things.
Yeah.
It's just to prioritize it in my day isn't, like, my natural way to go. But I'm like, boo-boo, like, you gotta. So, because I have a lot of ideas. So what I'm trying to do this month, for the month of Halloween, just because I have this idea, is to merge, like, the comedy and the law with the Halloween.
Cool.
So, like, my plan is to do Halloween videos. So, like, what I posted today was like me where I'm Michael Myers' lawyer, and I'm like,
that's
Michael,
really...
put down the knife.
Yes,
like,
I love those.
The fingerprints. So I'm like,
okay,
that's what I'm doing for this month, like one a week.
Yeah.
I mean, I've only the month just started.
It's October 1st, right?
It's October 1st.
Yeah.
So that's my desire,
I like
is
that.
to keep that up. And then I also have a lot of other ideas for like I want to do some of these mimicky, I don't even think the word is mimicking, but like my favorite courtroom scenes. I want to
like reenact them,
or just like have like Jack Nicholson saying his thing on the witness stand, but then I'm saying it.
I see.
I don't know the word for that.
What would that be, like a are you talking about like where you edit it together?
Not edited together, like their voice, but I'm mouthing it.
I see. You want to like voiceover, like
voiceover.
You want to do a voiceover video.
Kind of. I think that's the word.
Funny.
And then I also just like videos about how challenging it is to be a lawyer and like having clients who say crazy things and do crazy things and things a lawyer would never say to you.
Yeah.
Like yes.
Yeah.
Or no.
Yeah.
Because we would never say that.
Right.
Because there is no yes or no.
Yes.
There's like, it depends on the judge.
Right.
It depends on the jurisdiction. It depends on X, Y, and Z or whatever.
That's a good idea. I was listening to Brene Brown's podcast is back. And I don't know if you're a big Brene Brown person, but she had on what's her name? Writer, what her last name's Gay, Roxane Gay.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, okay. She had on Roxane Gay, and Roxane Gay just did an article, something like from a Black feminist perspective on how like guns work in America or something, like just kind of very intersectional, like guns, like Black women, feminism, stuff like that. And Brene Brown had her on, and she was talking about how America hates complexity. And that they don't leave a lot of room for complexity. So I actually think that would be a really good series to like go into this idea of complexity and play on how probably like your clients, they want a yes or a no, but they're not gonna get it, because there's complexity.
Yeah, there is a ton of complexity.
Yeah,
it really depends on so much.
Yeah,
and I bring that into my life because the complexity is everywhere.
Yeah,
like. It's so frustrating to me. Like, I'll say something. My man will be like, what's this like? And I'll give like a 30-second response. And he'd be like, so it sucks. I'm like, that's not what I said.
Yes.
And he's like, but basically it's what you said. I'm like, I didn't say sucks. I said da-da-da-da-da. And he's like, yeah, that's not.
So you quit your job as a lawyer in January.
Yes.
And you're doing comedy and you're doing like your storytelling. You're doing your shows. I'm curious to know because I also left my job in January, but like it was kind of like it was like kind of a mutual like this isn't working kind of thing. Okay. I'm not into it, they're not into it kind of thing. And I've been job hunting, so I'm not like totally like free. I'm not totally like I'm gonna do everything on my own, although I've tried that throughout this year at different times. And I have projects, like I have a photo booth side hustle where I do photo booth for parties, like corporate parties and stuff. And that's a really good moneymaker for me. And then, my comedy and my podcast and like I have things going on. I was joking to my dad the other day that like I'm America's most busy unemployed person.
That's great.
But I'm curious, you're doing like content about being a lawyer. You're doing like, it seems to be woven into your personality and your history and your content and your comedy. So do you want to speak to that a little bit? Like, did you feel like you had to leave being a lawyer and like, screw being a lawyer, I want to go do this, and that? Or do you still feel like you have a close relationship with the lawyer world?
I feel like I have a close relationship with the lawyer world. I feel like I used to say I came out of the womb a lawyer, but I don't know. I'm sure there was a lot of nurture. I think there's a lot of nurture about that in terms of me wanting to kind of get some clarity around what my experience was like as a kid. But I think I naturally, like in college, my plan was to major in theater. Mm-hmm. But I ended up not really liking the theater classes. I liked the government classes. I liked the economics classes and the psychology classes. So I majored in government and I minored in psychology and economics, but I just did the performing.
Right.
So I feel like my natural inclination is to want to be like, what are what are the rules of this environment, and like what's in writing, and I just have always kind of been that way. And I practiced law for so long. It's part of me. And then I think I feel like people say, and I believe this to be true for me, that comedy is a lot about pain. And I spend a lot of time in the pain and frustration of like day-to-day life of practicing law. And so it's definitely a big part of my, like, when I'm doing reels, for example, or even, I'm not doing that many, but what I have in my notes app is primarily like law related things that made me laugh.
I think that's
so frustrating.
I think that's so cool, because you hear a lot of like TV writers and stuff say that. They're like, oh, I was a sanitation worker for 20 years, and then I got into TV writing, and like now they have some huge big show writing on Parks and Rec or something, or something like that. And I think it's really cool to like take those lived experiences, especially like professionally, is so applicable to comedy and to content. Like, people want to watch that stuff. Like, do you know Jaden Heather Melsky at all?
No.
Okay, I would say everybody should follow her. Her Instagram is Gay Melsky, and do you know her? Maybe you've seen it.
Did she used to have a show at UCB?
Probably.
She's like a singer and piano player.
She does.
Yes, she's fantastic.
Yes.
She was on a show that I co-produced.
Oh, yes. Wow, that's great.
I think. Or I definitely saw her show at UCB.
Well, that's what she does.
Okay.
Yeah. And she does these fantastic, she's an assistant in real life. I think she's an assistant in real life, or some kind of admin, kind of like helps the company run, does a lot of important work kind of stuff. And she has a weekly series right now about, she's Trump's assistant.
Oh my God, I saw some of it. I saw some of it. I'm like, first you're like, I have no idea who she
you're
is.
like, no, I'm her biggest fan. Yeah.
I'm like, no, I actually contribute to her Patreon, apparently.
Well, I think it's fantastic, and it's coming from the lived experience. So like, I think the lawyer stuff is it's so unique, and it's so good. Like, how many lawyers are doing reels, like, as they might be doing reels, but every lawyer I see is like, so if you're in this situation, this is what you have to do. But it's funny to make it comedy.
Okay, fun. Okay, good. That feels inspiring. All right, I'm gonna it's for me to keep doing it, because I'm like, woo!
I think the complexity thing is real. I love that. And then I love the humor of like being a fictional character's lawyer. Like, that's just it's so applicable to so many. You could be like, you could do a holiday one and be like Kevin McAllister's parents' lawyer or something.
My God, that is great.
Bam! Yeah. But like, I think that would be a fantastic like series. I mean, it is already.
So fun. That's a great idea.
Oh, thanks.
I'm stealing it. I'll tag you.
Christmas movies, holiday movies, like, I love that. But speaking of movies, can we talk about your 3 white guys?
Yes.
Okay, so I was thinking about like, how do we introduce this to the audience? Because there will be people who have seen your shows. There will be people who have not seen your show. I thought maybe you could just give like the pitch.
Sure.
And also kind of get into who these 3 white guys are and how they are woven into the show.
Okay, fun. All right, my solo show is called 3 White Guys Named John.
Yeah.
And they're about how John Hughes, John Mayer, and John Bon Jovi have changed my life.
Yeah.
And it kind of, like, the show that I did at Solocom at the Pit earlier in the year was kind of just what I loved about them and how they inspired me. And then the hour is more about, it includes all of that, about how much I love them and how much they inspire me. But then I also kind of tell the whole story about how some of them have broken my heart and like disappointed me or made me cry just in some of the things they've said and some of the things they've done. And so with John Hughes, I talk about, I watched his movies incessantly. Like, I don't even know if he can really be, I understood how much I used to watch, like Weird Science. I watched it every single day for 3 years.
Yeah.
Like when I came home from school. Yes. And then like Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I watched that for years and years, over and over and over. And Uncle Buck, like there's so many John Hughes movies, and they just became a part of me. And he, like, there's so many movies, like, a lot of his movies, not all of them, are about, like, being uncool or the underdog or being bullied. And that person, like, rising up and, like, taking a chance and taking a risk. And so that really affected me and inspired me. And then John Mayer, like, when I was in law school is when his music, or when I found his music. And I didn't really feel like I was supposed to be in law school. I wasn't, like, it was sort of the natural path for somebody like me who really liked talking about the law and politics and government and cared about social issues. So it seemed like a natural fit. But I was like, I don't really know if I'm supposed to be here. And John, listening to his music, really inspired me to kind of connect to, like, I'm not supposed to be here. And I listened to his music every single day, like on repeat. I would just listen on repeat. And all through law school. And then when I eventually decided, after I graduated from law school, and my first couple jobs were at, like, Shakespeare theater companies, like, I would listen to him every day, like at the gym. Not at the gym. I didn't have enough money to go to the gym. When I was exercising outside.
That's so true. That's so realistic.
I was exercising outside and driving to the theater company. I would listen. And then John Bon Jovi, like, I did not grow up listening to John Bon Jovi. So I'm like, he never broke my heart because I didn't know him well enough for him to do that. I also did not know John Mayer or John Hughes personally either. But I had a more personal relationship with them. And so with John Bon Jovi, his music kind of came in. And I knew who he was, but I wasn't like, I don't know anything about his personal life, really. But I didn't need to for him to inspire me. So I'm kind of being a little vague, but that's
good. I connected most with the John Bon Jovi story. I think that's toward the end of the show, right?
Yes.
You close with that and you talk about, you know, how that song, It's My Life, has, like, helped you kind of find strength and, like, make some decisions and kind of, like, just kind of, like, own yourself a little bit. And I the reason that connected to me was because I actually had a story with that song where the first time I never heard that song before. And I was at, like, I used to go to this, like, 1 week, like, summer camp in Tahoe as a kid, like, every few summers, like, when it wasn't every summer. It wasn't a camp that, like, I knew everybody every year, like, that kind of thing. But, like, it was just a camp that, like, my town ran and stuff like that in Tahoe. And I remember there was, like, a dance, like, one night at the camp, and this song, It's My Life, came on, and I was probably, like, I want to say I was either in, like, 5th grade, 6th grade, maybe 7th grade, potentially. And it just, I remember it being this, like, euphoric, like, it's my life. Like, it is my life and I'm gonna live forever and, like, whatever. And, like, it's all I remember is how it made me feel. I don't remember the context. I don't remember the people around me. But I do remember as a kid and as a queer kid and, like, as a person who was coming to terms with everything as we are when we're that age. I just was like, you know, there's moments in your childhood where you probably look like an idiot and you're just like, what? Yes, like, this is me, you know, like, and I just had that moment. And then I've always remembered that whenever I hear that song. And so when you were telling the story so, like, perfectly and so, like, just so with such intention, I was like, okay, this is an amazing, amazing story. So I have questions from a fan.
Ooh, what do you mean?
You know Nicole Pasquaretta? She posted you in her story a couple of weeks ago and talked about how much your show meant to her, and she's been talking about it. Like, she is another performer. She's someone who is a comedian and a good friend of mine. And I said, "Can you submit some questions?" You can hit me as much as you want. So this is a new segment that I'm doing where I surprise people with fan questions. And so she really loved your show and she had some thoughts. So pick a number between 1 and 4. I'm going to ask you a couple of these.
3.
Okay, number 3. Okay, you sounded so prepared in your show and every word was perfectly said. Do you memorize a script word for word or do you write out the beats and improvise how you say it?
I memorize word for word.
Okay.
Which is a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
But
absolutely. Yeah. But do you find that feels like it aligns with your personality as kind of an academic, kind of like rule following kind of person?
Yes. And also because the pit was like,
right.
You cannot go overtime. Yes. They said if you go overtime, we will black you out.
Oh,
I was
my
like,
gosh.
oh
yeah,
my God.
Right.
Like I was terrified.
Yes,
of that.
I am like that too with time. I always end my shows early because I'm like, let me just get off.
I believed them and they didn't.
No,
actually.
I know
they
don't. Yeah, right.
But I thought I was like,
did you go overtime?
I did.
Yeah, okay.
I tried.
Well, they were probably
not
like,
to.
everybody is blown away. We're not going to cut this girl off.
Well, I kept cutting and cutting and cutting.
Yeah.
And it was just, I don't know.
Yeah.
I tried not to.
I know.
But
I think they just want to put fear into you and then you'll do your best.
It worked.
Yeah.
I'm easily.
Yeah.
Fear is easily.
So do you have any tips for people out there on memorizing word for word? Because sometimes people like to do that. So I personally, with my own performances, memorize like the vibe of a story and then just kind of improvise it. And then over time, it just becomes what it is. Kind of more closer to stand up and stuff like that. But I have had moments where I do want to like perfectly deliver an introduction to a song or a story. And I actually was listening to a podcast and I can't remember who it was that said this, but they were talking about the difference between practicing and writing. And the difference between practicing a lot and really focusing on your writing. And because, a lot of people talk about, oh, you need to go to 5 open mic nights a week and, you need to practice. And like, that's great. And this person was giving an offering, like a counterpoint of like, you can also sit in your apartment and like write and rewrite. So it's obviously a mixture of both. But what's your thoughts on that?
Well, so to the question of like how to memorize, I sometimes writing it over and over again. I didn't do that, but for like shorter things,
just writing it. So you're taking it from your brain and writing it out,
like literally pen to paper, pencil to paper. But what I often do is chunks. Like I will just sit in a room, close the door. It was my least favorite part of the solo show.
This episode of Life in Bold is brought to you by my Stonewall show on October 22nd. It's going to be a musical comedy extravaganza, a spooky evening with Ben Hawes. I'm so excited. It's going to be mostly new songs, which is going to be like a big challenge for me to perform, but it's going to be a lot of fun for you to watch. We're going to have some signature drinks. You can come in a costume if you want or just wear something fabulous and spooky. And it's going to be a fantastic show. It's actually my first ever hour that I'm producing myself. And there's going to be a special guest right in the middle, smack dab in the middle of the show. Stonewall, October 22nd. You can get your tickets at laughwithben.com. Now here's Andrea.
This episode is also brought to you by my performances at UCB. My next performance at UCB will be October 19th with my sketch comedy group, Young Douglas. And then the next time you can see me at UCB will be October 31st, Halloween night, in the show Gay Ghoul.
Wow. And now back to the show.
And now back to the show.
Perfect. And how do you do it? Like, are you in this show? Are you planning for audience interaction or like laughter or emotion or applause or anything like that while you're practicing?
No, because like that first time I did the show, I was like, okay, that part was funny.
Do you think that's why it went over?
Yes.
Yeah, because I don't prepare for like roaring applause,
I don't prepare. I'm like, that was funny.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I wasn't prepared for the. Yeah, and I also wasn't prepared for the emotion.
Yeah.
Because I was like, one of the shows I did this summer, performances of it, I was like, I'm like, at some point I will, quote unquote, like get over it. Like I won't be so emotionally vulnerable when I'm saying it, but I'm not the first there time yet.
Yeah.
Right. So, but every time I'm like, okay, now I know I'm like, okay, this is the part where I will probably cry.
Yeah, you have to kind of prepare yourself.
Yeah, and I'm like, and I, I'll be honest, don't really like it. I'm like, okay, lady, Get over yourself. Because it's like, am I really going to break down right now?
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is what they paid for. Like, I don't know if they knew what they were paying for, but like, it feels, that's the offering that I'm giving to the audience is this is the offering.
Yeah.
Like, I feel I talk about in the show things that make me feel ashamed but I'm telling you anyway, and that is the offering.
Yes.
And and for me, as somebody who is controlling and kind of working on it, but could be working harder, I guess.
Yeah.
But like every time I've come out on stage, the last few times I've done the show, I feel like I have no control over anything. Like I feel like I hope I remember what I'm supposed to say, because it's almost like when I've done it in the past, like I've had like the script in my head.
Oh, yeah.
And which is helpful.
Yeah.
But when I've walked out on stage, I'm like, I have nothing.
Yeah.
I hope it's there.
Well. Yeah.
Because I don't have it in my hand or whatever.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying.
So I'm like,
here we go. I was watching. Okay, so this is the episode where I just talk about all the podcasts that I've been watching because I was watching one with a comedian, and I can't remember. It may have been Kat Cohen. I don't know if you know her, or it could have been Nikki Glazer. I don't remember who the comedian was. It could have been someone totally different. But they were talking about how they just had a quote basically that I was like, "This is good." Like they said, "The greatest show in the world has already been written. I just have to be present and like there and ready to do it." Like, so they were talking about how, like, you don't have to be wondering or thinking or, like, going on stage and trying to find jokes or trying to, like, if you've already written it, if you've already prepared, what matters the most is, like, being present. That's what I took from it.
I love that.
And it was really helpful for me because I just did a show in my hometown. I did the Pride Festival in my hometown, and it went really well, but I felt nervous and not present. Well, I wasn't not present, but I was a little bit not grounded, I will say. I felt like it was my first time performing outside at a big park, which is just totally different. Sun, wind, other people doing other things, dogs, people leaving because they have to get to ballet practice. Like, it was an event with kids, you know, so it was a totally different situation. And I felt like if I had just gotten on stage and just taken it in a little bit more, I would have been more there. But I kind of rushed through it a little bit but everybody said it was great, you know. It wasn't, I'm not saying it was bad. I just feel like I could have enjoyed it a little bit more if I was a little bit more grounded and present. But yeah, I like what you're saying. It's like, sometimes you're just like going out on stage and you're just like, well, whatever happens.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And I relate so much to what you're saying. Like, you have one experience as the performer, and the audience has something different, and they could be like, this was the greatest thing, and you're like, I'm glad you had a great time. Inside I was dying slowly.
Absolutely. Okay, next question from Nicole. Pick another number between 1 and 4.
1.
Okay, I love this question. How were you able to notice the multiple signs of the 3 Johns in your life? I've been trying to pick up on signs in my own life. I think it's so beautiful that you recognized all these recurring signs in your life. So how were you so present to receive these messages?
I feel like the messages were, in many instances, kind of knocked me over the head.
Okay.
Like, they were not subtle.
Yeah.
Particularly Bon Jovi and Mayer. They were not subtle.
Yeah.
And with John Bon Jovi, I have to say, I would get divine communication as a lawyer. Yeah. And I wasn't asking for it. It would just kind of come in. Mm-hmm. And so I started relying on it because it would be in very tricky situations, and I didn't know what to do. So I'm like, I will take any ideas. Yeah. And how would that show up for you? Like, is that something that you're hearing? Is that something that you're knowing? Is it writing? Is it like,
what would it be different every time? Like, I'm really curious about that.
It would be the same every time. It would be almost hearing something.
Okay.
A combo between hearing and like a knowing. It was just like it would be like do this, and I'm like,
yeah,
I don't want to do that.
And yeah, that would be like in the courtroom.
Yes. Yeah. It would always be very. It would be like do or die moments.
Yeah.
Like one time, I mostly practiced in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And then I would say like 70% in Brooklyn, 30% in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And like occasionally I'd have to go to Staten Island.
Yeah.
But usually mostly Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And like one time I had to argue a motion. We didn't have a copy of it. It was actually several motions. We didn't have a copy. Yeah. And we couldn't find it. We'd gone paperless. Yeah. And we didn't write it. Another firm wrote it. I show up in court. Everyone's there. It's a Friday. And I didn't think I was going to have to argue the motion because my office didn't write it. I thought another attorney from another office was going to argue it. But they got let out of the case. And so in order for the motion to be argued, I would have to argue it. Yeah. And I didn't have a copy. And I'd never read it. Oh, and my gosh. And I'm standing there. The courtroom is packed. Yeah. Like, attorneys are sitting in the regular seats. They're sitting in the jury box. Yeah. They're standing along the back of the wall, and they're trickling out the door. And it's like, okay, counselor. The judge. I'm standing there. Yeah. And the judge is like, okay, counselor, are you ready to argue? And I'm like, yeah. And my armpits are burning, and I'm like, I don't know what to do. Yeah. I want to cry. Yeah. And then I hear, ask the judge for her copy of the motion. Oh. I'd never seen anyone do that before. Yeah. I was pretty sure that was not allowed. Yeah. And I was like, I can't. First of all, now I'm going to have to admit that I haven't read it. Yeah. And so I'm going to look unprepared. I am unprepared. Yeah. And these are my colleagues. Right. And they're already mostly older white men. Yeah. And I'm like, what? Right. Like, yeah. Like, I wanted to die. Yeah. But I had no ideas. Yeah. Other than that. And I didn't have the authority from my office to withdraw our desire for what the motion was asking for. Yeah. So I did it. I like, Your Honor, can I please have review your copy of the motion and have a few minutes to read it? Yeah. And she goes, what? And I was like, did she not hear me? Yeah. Or like, did hear me and was offended? So I asked again. And she goes, okay. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like, and I mean, it goes on from there because
was that the first time it happened?
It's the first time that I remember that I can think of right now. But it wasn't a small motion. It was like a massive motion because it had to do with medical issues. So it was like 8 huge stacks. And so then I had to get more divine help. Like, how do I do this? I only have like 5 minutes. Yeah. And oh my anyway, gosh. Cut to, I won the motion. Wow. And there were like 3 distinct moments of getting divine communication. Yeah. In that. And so it was like, it was the kind of thing where it's like, I didn't grow up believing in reincarnation or past lives, but like I got a vision once, so I'm like, and it was very clear, and I'm like, okay, whether I believe in it or not, I have them, and I just saw them. Yeah. And it's like, whether I believe you can get divine communication, I'm definitely getting it. Yeah. Because there's stuff that I'm hearing to do that did not come from me. Wow. And it's happening, so who cares? Like, it's happening, so I know that it's accurate. Yeah.
And does that come with like did you grow up religious? Like, are you religious now? Like, does it come with a feeling of like because I'm getting this communication, I feel more loyal to God or whoever or whatever? Like, I'd really be curious to know that.
I grew up going to a Baptist church, so my whole family goes to church. It's a very kind of cultural thing.
Yeah, right.
But it's also my experience of it. It seems I feel like it might be very different from other people's.
Okay.
Like, I have a very female dominated family, and I have a lot of aunts and a few uncles, but mostly aunts who are like ministers who've had their own church. My mom's a minister, but she became a minister late in life.
Yeah.
And like, so, but it was like, yes, there was a minister and it was a man.
Yeah.
He was a man.
Yeah.
But like, I never felt like he was really in charge. I felt like the women were in charge.
Okay.
Like, there were 2 women that sat in the row of church in front of us and would openly dispute whatever he was saying on the pulpit if they didn't agree. And they'd be like, da-da-da-da, and it's like, oh, the such and such sisters, like, please, can you just get through this? You've been here for 3 hours. You don't have to believe or agree. My experience was, people had their opinions about things, or you'd go to Sunday school, which is basically like Bible school or whatever, and they'd say one thing and you'd be like, I don't agree. Like, I do what I want to do. And I definitely saw in my family people were doing whatever they wanted to do. It didn't feel very dogmatic, but people went to church on Sundays and they would do whatever. But I never felt like I never felt like this is helping me in my day-to-day life. I didn't really feel like I got practical help with from the divine until I was an adult. Until like shit was hitting the fan, and I needed. Then I felt like I was getting like, oh, this is helpful.
Yeah.
And so, but it doesn't. It feels almost like it's a relationship. It's like a contentious thing. Like, even on the way over here, like, I'm really angry because the reason why I was like 3 minutes late is because it took me a long time to lock my bike.
Oh.
And I was like yelling mentally at the divine. I'm like, fucker. Why is the bike locked like this? Like, why are you bothering me? Like, it doesn't feel like it feels like a relationship.
Yeah.
Like, that's mostly contentious.
Yeah.
And even the like, do this, like, ask the judge. I'm like, ask the judge. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, it doesn't make me feel, it rarely makes me feel like lovey-dovey. It makes me feel like, you jerk. Like,
yes.
You are ruining my life. And why, but it also, it's the kind of thing where I feel like I know that if I listen to this communication, I will probably like win, or things will go better, things will go my way. Yeah. I don't have to listen. And like in my show, I didn't listen for a long time. Yeah. A lot. And it never felt like, if you don't listen, you're on the outs. It just feels like you're going to be in pain for longer, but sure, you do what you want, Yeah. And my relationship with, like, I wouldn't consider myself a religious person. I hate when people say this. I'm not religious, I'm spiritual. But like, I definitely,
it
is what it is.
People are like what people are what they are, and they identify how they identify.
I feel like I definitely, and like, I never found that I would ask for help and get it. Like, it was more like I would be living my life and something would come in. Like, or I'd be up against the wall kind of thing, and something would come in. Yeah. And so, like, in the solo show, like, I had that experience of asking the divine, like, what do I do? Yeah. I didn't expect that I would get an answer, because that's not the kind of relationship where I would get an answer.
And do you feel like it's, do you have a view that it's God, or do you feel like it's, like, you call it divine intervention. Do you feel like that means like it's coming from God and God is a specific figure, or do you feel like it's whatever, you know, kind of like I'm just getting it from the divine, whatever the divine is?
I feel like I'm getting it from the divine,
yeah,
and whatever the divine is.
Yeah.
And
interesting.
I feel like it's not. I feel like the divine. I could just say my experience from the church that I grew up in.
Yeah.
It felt very kind of narrow what God was. It's very like, it seemed like God, certainly not sexual, certainly not funny, certainly not sometimes trying to fuck with you for its own amusement or something. But I feel like, well, I have a sense of humor, so I feel like the divine has a sense of humor, and like there's a playfulness. So I have like a viewpoint of what the divine is that's broader than the one that I grew up with, and I certainly wasn't called the divine when I was growing up. Yeah. But and I feel like I'm learning I kind of learn like what that looks like and means. Yeah. Just through what my own personal thing is. Because I, for a long time, thought, no, I'm supposed to suffer. Like, that is what, that's what the divine wants. I'm going to suffer. And like the whole thing of like, it's my life. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, that's not what it is. Like, you like to make comedy and tell jokes. Yeah. So do that. Yeah. And it's like, no. And it's like, and the divine's like, don't put it on me. I'm not the one telling you that you can't make jokes. Like, I like jokes. You're the one. And I'm like, really? You know? And so I have like, I'm unlearning whatever. Right. Yeah. Like bullshit all the time.
Yeah. I had so I'm not personally religious. I also grew up going to church. I don't have some big like breakup with God or any. I think it just was always kind of like nothing that connected with me. But I'm as I'm older now, I have been exploring more and just having more conversations. So this is really like helpful for me personally. And like I always joke that like I don't believe in anything except for my own dreams. Oh. Like my own like dreams when I'm sleeping. Like if I have a dream, that to me is like the closest thing to God or closest thing to divine communication or something like that. Like I think it's doing my deepest knowing, you know, when I have a dream. And I had a dream when I was 19 that just was the dream that made me come out of the closet as gay. Wow. And I cannot even explain how vivid the dream was. It was so vivid that I had never experienced anything like it. And I was actually camping and with my family. Like my uncle has this like kind of property on a lake, but it's just like a trailer and like a roof. It's not like a big house or anything. So I call it camping. It's just, you know, it's whatever. I went to sleep one night and I just had this dream where these two very random, like it was like a cousin and like someone that I worked with, but male, came up to me and they were like, come here, we have to tell you something. Like, and they took me like one by one to like my loved ones, and my loved ones would all say, we know and it's okay, or we know and we love you, or we, you know, something like that. And every person like in this dream, like I was going down a line, and it wasn't the people weren't in a line. It would be like I would travel somewhere and like this person would be here, and at the very end my mom was there. I don't know why. I mean, I love my mom so much. She's probably like the relative that I am closest with, and like especially at that time, like really respect so much. Not especially at that time, I do respect her so much, but like I got to her and she said, I know and it's okay, and we just did this hug. I woke up and I was like, I'm gonna come out. And it was the most vivid thing I had ever experienced, and it totally changed my life. And I had so much fear and so much, you know, coming out of the closet is not easy, and especially then, you know, like it's not something that I was even considering doing. Like I was really going to just I was planning to like at 19 live my life and not be not come out. I was going to be like, oh, that sounds awful. Like I don't want to be gay. And
not come out and also not have relationships.
I guess so. I really was like, at 18, I realized I was gay, and I thought, I'm going to just kind of keep this to myself, which I think is really common. I think people have that thought, like, it would just be better if I don't, you know? And that dream absolutely I went from 0 to 100%. Like, it was like God saying,
that's amazing.
You absolutely need to come out.
I have chills hearing it.
Really?
And it's like also like part of me I can feel the part of me that wants to like have like emotion, just like cry, because it's so beautiful. And if I keep talking about it, I might do that. It's like really affects me so much. I love that you had that dream.
It hasn't really happened again. It was like this like thing, but the question really being like being open to it and being like just like understanding that it might happen at any time, and like, you know, but sometimes it sounds like also with your communication, it's just coming, like it's just gonna happen.
Yeah, it'll come in, and I think sometimes I could probably ask more. I think I'm a little. It's the balance. Like sometimes I might ask and I won't get an answer. Yeah, and that's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Yeah, or disappointing, or like. I mean, the first time, we're just going for it.
Yeah, let's go for it.
I lost my virginity very late in life. Okay. Like, I had sex for the first time very late in life. Some people don't like the phrase "lost their virginity." Okay. But I don't mind it. Yeah. I gave an additional terminology for people maybe who don't like that phrasing. But I was like, I thought I was 33. Okay. But I think I was actually 34. Okay. And I didn't. Again, controlling. I'm very controlling. And I was just worried that if I had sex that I would not be me or be too into whoever it was I had sex with. I really was very like, I want to be me, and I want to be very focused and driven. And I almost like just like the movies or people in my life, I was like, you seem like real like twisted up about that guy. And
yes,
I do
right.
not want to be that, you know. And I just didn't want to be vulnerable. Like there was just a lot of things I thought it'll be better for me, and it wasn't hard. It wasn't hard. Yeah, like women have a lot of erogenous zones on our body. Yeah, and I was having a great time.
Yeah, good.
I wasn't like living in a nunnery or whatever. I did live across the street from a nunnery. Yeah. But I wasn't in it.
Nunnery adjacent.
Yeah. So I was making out with guys, but I was just like not doing this, not doing that. Yeah. You know, but I was having a fantastic time.
You think it was because you were like really focused on just becoming who you are in your career and like that kind of stuff? Or do you think there was like some like suppression of like, did you have relationships? Like, were you, like what do you think it was that made it that way for you in your like 20s, like in early 30s?
I think I really felt like I would lose something. Like I would lose my ability to be who I was, that I would be beholden to a man.
I see.
You know, like there's a lot of stuff I'm still unpacking, and I don't want to at all act like I figured anything out. Or that I figured it all out, but I do know, like, some of my family grew up in a violent household, and it was very much taught to me by my dad of like, do not ever be in a position where you can't take care of yourself, where you can't go. Like one time. My dad's a really, really great like woodworker, cabinet maker, and he was doing some cabinetry in someone's house, and I was young, and that woman's house was beautiful, and we were going into the house, and my dad's like, "Oh, isn't this person's house so beautiful?" And the woman said, "Yeah, maybe one day you'll marry a man who will buy a house like this for you." And my dad, I could tell, and now as an adult, I'm sure I can tell that he got triggered, but he immediately was like, she's not going to need a man to buy her house for her like that. She can buy her own house. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm 6.
Yeah, right?
But it was like that's kind of like, which is like on the one hand, that's a lovely thought that I wasn't taught to rely on a man for whatever. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, it was like, this is a lot. It's a lot. We're talking about cabinets and I'm a kid, you know? And
yeah, I see the complexity of it.
Yeah. Like it was that sort of thing of like, don't get into a situation where you're too, I don't know, vulnerable, beholden to a guy.
Yeah, I see that. That's a really interesting perspective to have as a just growing up and having that foundation and then going into your 20s and I know you're career driven, you know, like I know you're thinking about, I actually for my 20s really was like, I'm not dating. I'm not doing that. Like I have to build this career. And I was like talking about like my professional career, not my comedy career. Like I was like, because I even had, obviously I was performing every now and then, but I even had, you know, taking sex out of it but putting comedy in. I didn't pursue it in my 20s because I was like, that's less reliable. That's why I studied business in college. That's why I was like, I'm going to join companies. I'm going to make 401ks and this and that and whatever. And I need to have something that like is safe. And there was a part of that where like, part of that was to satisfy my family a little bit, you know, like to say, don't worry, you guys, you know, like I'm going to be safe. Like I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be fine. I have a business degree. Like, don't worry.
That's amazing that you have a business degree.
Well, you know, it's bachelor's, but it, you know, it is what it is. Yeah. And I actually do notice that I feel better about like my life that I have that, you know, those degrees and things because, you know, comedy is something that I pursue and it's definitely like, you know, a hobby for now. And it's something that is, I have big dreams for it, but I also have to like have a bigger income coming elsewhere. And I'm a little bit grateful for that, like kind of safety and stuff. And doing things older is like, it's better. Like you say, like not a lot of 16-year-olds who lost their virginity at 16 are like, it was great.
I know. It's true. I did have a great, it was an interesting experience at the very least. Like I felt like clear. Yeah. You know, and I don't know how we got to the topic, but I think because when I was, and the person that I ended up having sex with, like I told him that I hadn't had sex before and I didn't feel any new pressure because we'd been dating for a while. Yeah. And the night I got like the feeling, I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm having sex tonight. and I even said to him, I was like,
I need to write a song. I think I'm having sex tonight. Oh my God. Boom.
I love it. And I told him and he was like, are you sure? Like, are you serious? Yeah. And I was like, I'm serious. Yeah. And then I asked, I asked the divine. I was like, is like, can you tell me? Yeah. Like, so I have the green light. Mm-hmm. And the communication I got was like, I'm not telling you. Like, this is you. Yeah.
It's your life.
It's my life. He didn't say that, but like, it was in the
divine is John Bon Jovi.
No, but it was like, you have to make this decision. I'm not going to tell you if you're going to be okay on the other side of it. Like, you need to make this decision knowing that you don't know if you're going to be okay. Wow. And I was like, oh God.
You don't like that?
No.
Yeah.
I don't. I want to fucking
You're
guarantee.
Like, I would love if the divine would just tell me what to do, please.
Yeah, I love that. Except when he does. Yes, and I'm like, don't tell me to do that.
Yeah, right.
But I did. Mm-hmm. I did. Yeah. And I was so happy because I was like, I'm still me.
Yeah.
Wow. This is maybe too graphic, but the minute the penis went in,
I was like, oh my God.
I'm still me.
Wow, what a lesson.
I am not.
You're still you.
I'm not like some other, like, I don't know, boy crazy.
Yeah, person. You didn't turn into what you feared.
I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm still just as crazy as I've always been, you know?
Yeah.
So it was a relief.
Well, I just wish we could talk for 3 more hours because I'm enjoying this conversation so much. And I really feel like I got a lot out of it. Like, I feel like as someone, you know, I really have been exploring more of that intuition and more of like, you know, just like my thoughts on what the universe is and things like that. And that's why I actually wrote a song 2 days ago about to God. Like I love that. Like, yeah, like I'm exploring, you know, like I'm I have been very closed off in the past. Like I have a friend, Stephanie, who she is a Christian, and she like has her own relationship and exploration going on with God and church and this and that, and not policies. What are not God's policies, but like just kind of like the teachings of different religions and things like that. And like and I've had experiences where she'll say something or share something or whatever, and in like maybe 5 years ago I would be like so closed off, like because and as a gay person, like you have to kind of find your own relationship to not only religion for yourself, but like religious people. And like you have to set some standards for yourself and say like this is something that's okay, and this is like something that like you can't cross this specific boundary for me, but like I have to be okay with the fact that people are like worshiping God and going to church and like using their religious beliefs to guide how they live their lives. But I've learned that like when someone says like I'm a Christian, to me that doesn't necessarily mean the same thing person to person, like you're saying with your family.
It's hard. Like even for me, like it's funny, there are some people who would think that I'm too spiritual, and then some people who are like you are not doing enough. like if I interact with certain people, they're like, oh, well, what church do you go to? And I'm like, oh, I don't go to church. I don't do that. And they're like, oh, well,
church comes to me.
Right. And they're like, I'm a church of, I don't know, sometimes God comes to me in a bedroom, sometimes in the courtroom, or like it'll be like, do you read the Bible? And I'm like, I don't.
Right.
Really?
Yeah, like, but I do go into a room every Sunday and memorize it. Exactly. I repeat it over and over and over again, and my show is going to be on this date.
That's awesome. So, like, it's hard because I recognize, like, the judgment, or even like, there are people in my family who are very churchy and preachy, and I'm like, I can't stand the judgment of religious folks is like such a fucking turn off. It's such a turn off. I'm like, and like, but but it is people's personal journey, and like ultimately somebody is hateful or they're not hateful, or they're hopeful or they're not hopeful, or there's different things that like make up a person, and like ultimately I feel like their religion is something they use to guide themselves, but it's also something that they ultimately do kind of pick and choose like what they want to take from each religion, and they want to take from each teaching or each book or each artist or whatever, like I do find that. But we should wrap up, but I really, it's so hard. It's so fun to talk
to you. Where can people find you? I want them to go see your shows. Are you ever going to do the show again?
I hope so.
Yeah, good.
I've applied to a couple things, so I'm waiting to hear back.
Yes, of course.
You can follow me on Andrea Coleman Comedy on Instagram.
Which is a great page, great photo, great headshot right there.
Thank you. And then I have a website.
Oh, good.
That's also Andrea Coleman Comedy.
Yeah.
And then I have a YouTube channel that you can find from there, and that's where you can find me.
Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
This was such a good episode. This was such a good episode. And to the followers, to the people listening, I really appreciate you sticking around and hanging out with us today. You can find us at lifeinboldpod.com, and you can find us on social media at lifeinboldpod. You can follow me, your sexy host, who's good with technology. Very good with technology and claiming it. That's the hottest part. We had some tech issues, and I was like, I'm good with technology, so don't you worry. But you can find me, your sexy host, at Laugh with Ben on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and laughwithben.com. Anyway, have a wonderful day, an even better week, and don't forget to live your life in bold. That's a little prank I do at the end. Anyway, see you later. We'll see you next time, and have a great, wonderful life. Bye. Bye.